I'm Eric Barnes of the Daily Memphian, and welcome to The Sidebar, a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today, we're once again celebrating the 5th anniversary of the Daily Memphian with a couple of key staff members, so stay with us for a conversation about the Daily Memphian. I'm here with Mary Casciola, editorial director.
Hello.
Of the Daily Memphian. Thanks for being here. And Holly Whitfield, frequent podcaster with us on Soundbites.
It's me. I'm back.
You said you spent all day in here because you were on Soundbites. You hosted Soundbites earlier with Sophia.
Yes.
Our new commercial real estate reporter, also
restaurant
openings, business, all that kind of stuff.
It was great.
It's just kind of a comical circus of trying to get what was supposed to be 3 of you in here, including Jane Donahoe, Metro editor, who is not here. She is somewhere in the greater Memphis area having not.
Metro editing.
Thanks. I think that's a positive spin on it. So we'll just talk bad about Jane, who does a great job, but we're going to talk badly about her. And then talk to you both about Daily Memphian, about where we're going, about 5 years and how you got in this business and so on. So I guess with Mary first, people know you from Early Word. Do you still get people who are like, oh, I love that Early Word?
No.
Because it's been 2 years now or 3?
Yeah. People have short memories. People have short memories.
But when you did it, people would say...
Yeah. People loved it when I did it.
Yeah. And you did it for 1 year for us or a year and a half?
No, 2. 2 full years.
I have no sense of time.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Chris Harrington about doing early... And now Bianca Phillips writes the Early Word for us. And when we launched Daily Memphian, we knew we wanted kind of a morning thing like the old 901 that Chris would do. And we just had so much going on, we didn't get to it. And then about a year in, give or take from launch, we hired you to do that and then to take on all kinds of other stuff. And now you really run the newsroom. But I want to go on Early Word. I remember talking to Chris in a kind of roundabout way about whether he'd be interested in doing a morning thing. And he got about as animated as Chris gets in saying, no, I can't ever go back and do that. It almost killed me. And I remember talking to him about it also, that how long did you do Early Word or the 901? I had thought it was years, and it was basically barely a year and a half. And he just said no, because it just was too much. And I remember talking to you about it a year in going, there's at some point where you're doing Early Word, you're going to burn out, I'm afraid. And you were taking on all this other stuff. But to do that is a lot harder than people might realize because it needs to look kind of effortless, right?
Yes. I mean, Chris did the 901 in a much different way than I did the Early Word. So he had to put a lot of his own reporting and his own thoughts into it. And the Early Word was really more of a compendium of like what you need to know and how quickly can we give it to you, and can we do it in a way that you enjoy the experience for all 60 seconds of it. But it is not without its challenges, certainly, much less getting up at 4 or 4:30 in the morning to actually get it out the door. Yeah.
Does Bianca get up at 4 in the morning?
I think she gets up at 4.
Yeah. She gets up at like 4 or 4:30. It just depends.
Yes. That's nauseating. Yes. To think about doing that.
But you know that Holly and I also get up with her.
I didn't.
Did you know that?
And Natalie. I mean, all of you.
Well, Natalie is
know
already.
That Holly was up that early.
Yeah. Not 4:30, but like 5:30.
Yeah, 5:30.
5. Just depends.
I knew you were. I knew Mary. I'm good podcasting here. I knew Mary was, and I knew Natalie was, but I didn't realize
I'm there.
Yeah.
As well. We're all there making it happen.
Yeah, 6 a.m. We're like, here we are. Time to wake up.
Holly. Other people have just talk about this, but you've been with us now, since January, February?
Since February, yeah.
So give or take 8, because I can't do math, 8 to 9 months.
Yep.
9 months.
That sounds
Figured
good.
it out. I just wrote it down, put it in a spreadsheet.
Almost time for your annual review.
Exactly. Yes. Didn't I do Natalie's annual review on the pod? No, I did I'll break my heart. I did Jennifer Biggs's annual review as an interview. She goes, what? You can't do that. I said, I'm doing it right now.
I think that's wonderful, actually.
It was wonderful,
I'm going to go back and listen to that.
It was super wonderful. Digital director.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Great question.
This is your annual review.
You actually explained this one time to someone else, and the way that you explained it was really great, and I can't remember any of the words that you used, but I lead our digital desk team, which is the team that takes our stories after our reporting and puts them on our website and makes them look amazing and put all the bells and whistles and all the copy editing and all that fun stuff, as well as helping lead our social media, email newsletter teams, and doing what Mary tells me to do.
Yeah. And
that's a short version.
Do people, I mean, I remember when we hired you, I know I've said this before, and we were very excited. And then we got to be able to announce, or I think you said first on I Love Memphis or whatever, however we worked that out. You announced and then we announced that you were coming. And I remember so many people coming up to me saying, oh, it's going to be so great because she's going to write for you. Because they knew you from I Love Memphis, and you really haven't been that out. And that was by design. It wasn't
right.
You can't be. You're more out front now because you're hosting a lot of sound bites and you're doing some stuff, but not a regular thing like you did with I Love Memphis. Do people kind of harass you about that or wonder, like, what are you doing?
People wonder, but they don't harass me. And I have enough bylines here and there coming through doing stories when we need somebody to do it that I think people see those and they're like, okay, she's still doing that. But it's given me a chance to have a team and be a part of a team in the way that I didn't really get to do at I Love Memphis, which is something I always wanted to do, and we can accomplish so much more. So I have enjoyed that. And then I also do still get to, share stories, write stories, edit stories, so that way I can still do that. So if people really want to know, and some people do ask, I just say that to them. And that makes sense. But I wrote a story this morning about the Garden City Music Fest lineup announcement. So getting to do stuff like that still is super fun. Kind of best of both worlds for me a little bit. It's a lot, but it's fun. Yeah.
She's not here. What does Jane do? I forget.
She is the editor of our Metro section.
Oh, right. No, Jane is she. I can't believe it's been only a year.
It's been a year,
which is
a little over. She was telling me because she said she started in October.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And has done a great job with Metro and is taking on more and more. So that was the other reason. And part of the reason I want to have the three of you on, but the two of you, the same thing, because you weren't here at the beginning. Like Andy and I did a podcast a month or two ago. Andy Cates, the board chair and one of the co-founders and so on. And so we were talking way in the past, even before we launched. But for you, Mary, especially now, because you run the newsroom, like the newsroom roll up to you.
Yes.
Like how have we evolved over from even before you were here? I mean, you were at MBJ, you were managing editor over there.
Right.
We can talk more about, you were also at Wharton, you were at Wharton in the Wharton administration, you were at Contemporary Media. But just like in your mind, how over the 5 years have we evolved?
That is a good question. I mean, it's hard for me to say what you did before I got here, certainly. I think that I think that sort of like solidified what the expectation was going to be, right? Because like I know when I was talking to people about, I may be thinking about going over there, people who are already here were like, there's a little bit of tension about what the site is going to be. Is it going to be the Washington Post? Is it going to be a daily? I don't know if you even know. That's what people told me, but they did.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was always. Yeah. I mean, I think some days there's still some like, what the hell are
and I think so. And now we've really, I think, sort of solidified on we are a local daily site and we are going to try to give you as much daily news as possible. And at the same time, we're definitely going to try to give you those deep dives that you can enjoy day after day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably in the last year plus of more deeper looks and trying what we call enterprise, or I jokingly call it sometimes enterprise light, but just where we can go a little bit deeper on. I think of like early in the year, Julia Baker was part of a really cool series. It was very kind of painful, but really important series on juvenile crime where we weren't just saying, here are the stats, which is important to do. And there's nothing wrong with us doing that, but was like, could talk to people, talk to victims, talk to the people who work with juveniles, any of that kind of deeper stuff. Sam Hardiman, who's now been with us for, I guess Sam
he started like a week or two before me. So
yeah. Sam is really good at that, like the deeper kind of dive stuff. And that definitely, but it's funny because we always wanted that. It just took a lot longer to get there. And you get staff changes. Tom Bailey, who used to be with us, could do that kind of enterprise work with his eyes closed.
Yep.
Unfortunately, fortunately for him, he retired. For you, Holly, watching it to whatever degree from the outside,
right,
for that first 4 years, how has it evolved?
Well, I really feel like it's solidified a lot in the time that I've been here, and I think a lot of that has to do with, of course, Mary's leadership, but Jane's Metro team and really honing in on that daily coverage, like we were just talking about. And I feel like and I've heard people talk about this, there was a sort of a question at the beginning, like, is this like a pro Memphis thing? Is this, or are they going to talk about crime? Are they not going to talk about crime? Like, what is the goal? And so to see it come together as like, it's journalism, right? So it's not, we love Memphis, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to talk about what is happening here, regardless of how that may make us feel. And that's certainly something that I think has been a big part of the newsroom in the last year or so, just with everything that's happened in Memphis. Yeah. But not to get into all that, just to say, I think it's, one of the first things I did was a Tyree Nichols story. That I would have never done that in a previous role in a way that was telling a complete story. So that has been, frankly, I've been impressed. I've been really impressed with the conversations I've overheard in the newsroom and the journalists and editors working together and trying to make sure different voices are included in different stories, that difficult stories are told in a way that is thorough and well done, and not like, sometimes people will say, why don't you just do a story about this? I'm like, well, because that's going to take some time to do it right. Like, it would be easy for any outlet to just put up any story, good or bad, about the city, but the way that we do it and try to talk to multiple sources, all those journalism basics that are happening in our newsroom. I think I'm still new enough that I can be unbiased to say that I've been very impressed to watch it unfold that way. That
tension I remember that from before we launched. Like, we didn't want to be relentlessly negative about Memphis, but I mean, that didn't make sense. We weren't trying to shy away from it. But when we sort of said I used to do all these, I did the Collierville Chamber of Commerce this morning. It's part of my life. But I did lots and lots of that stuff once we announced them. So before we launched and that year after we launched. And I would always get up and say to people, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And we're not going to cover last night's crime. And universally people would clap. It didn't matter where I was. People would just applaud that. I say, but we're going to try to cover trends. We're going to try to cover, kind of solutions, because there's obviously a crime problem and we don't want to run away from it. And in the context of like speaking to a group and then maybe doing Q&A, people got that. But a lot of it got summarized, and I'm not anyone's fault, as we're not going to do crime. We don't do crime.
Right.
And that was not ever meant to be the case. And then Phil Trineri, former chamber president, was killed, a month after we launched, within 6 weeks of us launching. And it was like, well, wait, we weren't going to do incidents of crime, but we didn't really think this through.
Right.
Because there are certain prominent things that happen that are exceptional or are different or are just touch so many people. And so it's always been a work in progress that I think only really, looking at Mary here, in the last year, and if Jane were here, who runs that, we've sort of found a better, if not perfect, rhythm.
Right. I can play the role of Jane for right now, to say that like we have spent definitely the past year really honing what that crime strategy is, what we're going to cover, what we need to cover, how we're going to cover it, who's going to talk about it. We have a bunch of younger reporters, so already we would be training them up in a lot of ways anyway. And then Jane herself, though a long career in journalism, has never, ever covered crime. I really haven't covered crime very much. So we sort of come from the background of like, we're going to question everything. We've been very lucky to have a Pointer course that we've been taking all together.
Pointer Institute, for those not, is a kind of think tanky training ground support of journalism, very well respected national, or maybe even international, but certainly national, locally focused institute.
Yes,
I think
definitely. And so for 2 hours every week, our team gets together and we sit in a room and we talk and we go through exercises. And we have come up with sort of a rubric of like what we cover, how we cover it. But as you were saying, like it evolves constantly, because as soon as we put down some parameters, something else terrible happens, and we're like, we have to rethink it.
Right.
And it's like, are we going to do it? Are we not? How do we cover this particular incident?
Yeah. Or something just different happens.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's not terrible.
Yeah. No. Or it can be terrible, or it's just different, or it's just, there is an amazing amount. And we all do, I'm sure, in our various ways. But I get a certain amount of people saying, why didn't you cover this incident?
Right.
And I had that conversation with somebody recently. It was by email, but I was just like, I'm so sorry about what's happened. It is terrible. But there are 300 and something murders a year. We can't possibly cover all of them. That is all we would do. We can't do it with depth. So I don't know. It's just a real challenge. And it's hard to say that to people because it's not like that person's life doesn't matter and that what happened to them wasn't a tragedy, but it's just a constant struggle that is, again, as far as we've come, it's still really imperfect. And it's also interesting to say everybody in local news, certainly local newspapers, but increasingly local TV across the country is struggling with this, in part because they have reduced staff, I mean, 90% reductions in local newspapers. And there's a bit of like self-reflection, like, as I said to somebody recently, if covering every crime would reduce crime, there'd be no crime, because you can find coverage of virtually every murder and horrible crime in Memphis and St. Louis, in Seattle, and Portland. You just go to local TV news and one of the local stations will cover it. That is not solving crime or reducing crime.
No, not at all. And quite frankly, I mean, we can talk from our Pointer cohort, our other newspapers, our other TV stations. Like, there are many reasons why they are continuing to cover crime that way. And we are not coming from that background, which I'm very thankful about. But it's definitely a topic that we are hyper-focused on right now.
Yeah. Let me take a minute, do some housekeeping, and come back and we'll talk more about y'all's backgrounds and other things other than crime, although we might come back to crime. Just a reminder, this is The Sidebar. It airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30. It's focused on the community, arts, culture, everything in between. It's also one of many weekly podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including Bill Drees and Sam Hardiman's Politics podcast, On the Record, the Memphis Grizzlies podcast that Drew Hill and Chris Harrington do. We brought back recently the Memphis Tigers podcast, hosted by Greg Gaston and featuring a number of our Tigers writers, depending on what they're focused on that week. And as I mentioned before, our food podcast, Soundbites, that Chris Harrington and Holly Whitfield here across from me at the table at the world headquarters host. All the Sound Bites, the food podcast, that airs on WYXR also every Thursday at 11, right before the Sidebar. And all the podcasts are on the Daily Memphian site, as well as iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Speaking of WYXR, which just celebrated its 3rd anniversary, or is it 2nd? I think it's 3. I can't believe that. You can go to WYXR.org or download the WYXR app and learn more about or get all the shows or become a supporter, become a member. It is nonprofit listener-supported radio, so think about becoming a member if you can. And you get archives, as I think I just said, of all the talk shows like this and all the other music shows as well. Also, if you're not a subscriber to the Daily Memphian, you should become a subscriber. There. That's it. That's what you should do. So go to Daily Memphian and become a paid subscriber. We recently had Kanji Anthony. Was that last? No, and Mike McCarthy. Kanji Anthony was 2 weeks ago. That was awesome. You should go back and listen to Kanji just because she was awesome. And Mike McCarthy, filmmaker and artist and sculptor, he was on last week. I mentioned Behind the Headlines, I think, maybe, which we do with the good folks at WKNO every week. We recently had Mayor-elect Paul Young on the show, as well as Beverly and Howard Robertson, who conducted a series of community conversations around crime. For us, we did a series of articles. There's a kind of big report they put together. We talked through all that stuff on Behind the Headlines. And coming up soon, we've got a show on parks with Nick Walker from the city of Memphis, as well as the women who run the Shelby Farms, Tomley Park, and Overton Park Conservancy. Doug McGowan's also coming on soon. You worked with Doug, right?
I did work with Doug, yes.
Way back when in the Wharton administration.
Way back when, yes.
Oh, wait, we'll get some secrets of Doug McGowan here in just a minute.
I have plenty.
Oh, man. Also, Jim Strickland's coming on for 2 shows, two shows coming soon to a PBS station near you. Soon-to-be former Mayor Jim Strickland. He's still got a few things to do. And then we're doing a show on fiber and broadband with special guests, Blair Taylor, CEO of Memphis Tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. Last thing, the CRE, our commercial real estate seminar, is coming up on November 30th at 3 p.m. That's at the Botanic Garden. That will probably sell out, so you should go to Eventbrite, search for Daily Memphian, and get your tickets. Paul Young, Mayor-elect, is going to be there for a bit, doing maybe a few questions and talking a bit about business, economic development, and so on. Then Ursula Madden, who is with the Ford Blue Oval project, is going to do an update on that, as well as Gwen Fisher from the Chamber. We'll be talking about economic development. And then 3 guys whose names I still don't know because I forgot to write them down. I'm looking at Natalie, but they'll be there on a panel. Very, very successful, very smart, very capable 3 guys who work in commercial real estate in various sectors, office, manufacturing, industrial, like I said, and retail. Yeah,
and it's all men, huh?
Yeah, it's all men. It is all men. Not the whole panel though. It's a diverse panel in a non-diverse industry. Where were we? We talked a little bit about your background. We're going to come back to Doug McGowan, but you, before Daily Memphian, you being Holly, you were at I Love Memphis and Memphis Tourism, and the whole thing was 9 years, 10 years?
Yep. It was about 9.5 years.
And you, before that, were you at the CA before that, or was there a stop in between?
Nope. I was at the Commercial Appeal before that. So in the Commercial Appeal, I worked in the niche publications department, which is like magazines.
What were some, like Spoon? Was that one?
Oh, yes. Spoon.
You did Spoon.
I did a bunch of Spoons. Spoons was twice a year. It was like a coffee table quality, perfect bound, glossy thick cover magazine with lots of really involved photo shoots.
Do you remember? I don't know if you might remember, because you came out of contemporary media, magazines, and print. I remember seeing Spoon going, oh my God, this was so expensive. That's all I could think.
Yes.
I was like, this thing is beautiful.
Do you remember which edition you saw, like who was on the cover?
I don't.
I have a cover Spoon story I can tell you, but the other magazines that is really great and actually was a big professional lesson for me. But anyways, the other magazines, there was Skirt, which is like women's stuff, I guess.
But with a man on the cover, right? In a skirt?
So this was the thing about the skirts. And
that I don't remember.
It was all women. It was features on women business owners and artists and all kinds of people. But then they let one man be in every issue, but he had to wear a skirt. I'm not joking. That was like
That's
premise.
the only thing I remember about it.
Yeah. And one time we wanted to have Rocky, the Redbird, Memphis Redbirds baseball team mascot in there. And so I like made a giant Hawaiian print skirt for this mascot. I don't know.
You made it yourself?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like great, but it looked like a skirt. Anyways, I just thought it was funny that we never let a man be in it unless he was wearing a skirt. I don't think any of that would fly now, but
really?
I mean, there would be questions, okay? There would be questions. There's a reason that we don't have that magazine anymore, probably. Okay. There was also a Home and Garden magazine. There was a health magazine. There was also, and this is really revealing my sordid past, a wedding magazine that I did, like, came up with the concept because I was told to, and like sold all the advertising and wrote all the stories and made the magazine. It was wild.
So, and you came out of a more business marketing background than journalism.
I always kind of, so I think part of the reason that I told you those little anecdotes is because like I was always kind of doing all the things.
Yeah.
Just like whatever needed to happen to make the project happen, I was doing it. So there was a bit of marketing. There was definitely journalism. There was definitely, I have a degree in graphic design. Sometimes, fun facts. Like, so always done all the things. Yeah. I don't know. I just couldn't decide. And so then I ended up continuing to do them. But I do less things now, believe it or not. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because although you went married to college for journalism
I did.
At Northwestern, but a very acclaimed program, but you've been all over too, in a way. You've done a lot of the things.
Well, I've done some things. I mean, I definitely was in journalism for a long time, and then I went into the mayor's administration doing communications.
That was Wharton.
For Wharton.
Was that the first, when he was first elected?
Yeah, but it was in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah. I came in the middle of the term. Did that, and then I went to work for an advertising agency. So I did that. I was a copywriter, and then I came back to journalism,
which was back to MBJ,
Memphis Business Journal. Yep.
Do you think? I mean, I bounced around a fair amount and didn't go to school for journalism. As I joke, don't tell the board. But and have sort of been in and out. But I've always been in publishing, one way or another. But it has been really good to be in all the parts of it.
Yeah.
Because it just, and I would think even being on the other side you were joking the other day about some people did not necessarily like you when you were in communications at the mayor's office because that's kind of your job. Like, right? I mean, it's not, it's not to make people mad, but it's also not to make them happy.
Right.
So, I think it does help a ton.
I think so too. Like having worked for actual businesses that aren't journalism, like I understand business now more. I mean, like, it's just like anything else. You do it, it's experiential, and like you get these experiences and you have the knowledge, right? So I love that I have that background.
I think there's some people too, with this sort of inside baseball, who would listen and think, well, duh, of course.
Yeah,
like you would want that.
Yeah.
But actually old school, especially local, but national newspaper, local newspaper journalism was the hard and fast business side people, editorial people. They shall not talk in the elevator. Even at the CA, they're on
different floors. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it was always, when you were there, was it separate floors?
It was separate floors. We were like a weird little side office, but separate floors.
Some old school, like local journalists still look at me like kind of sideways because I'm CEO, you know? I mean, that's sort of not a thing I want to talk to there, that CEO person.
When I left journalism to go work for the mayor, people said, like, that's fine, but you can never come back to journalism. Like, you're done. You're dead to us. We never want to speak to you again unless you're revealing all of your secrets. And that's fine. Yeah, exactly. Or whoever. But that's not true anymore.
Yeah. And
but I think it was at one point.
For the better of the industry. I mean, honestly, because I still end up talking to people around the country who, I mean, not all the time, but I'll go to conferences or they'll kind of get in touch with me somehow. And we want to start a local startup because our local newspapers, collapsed, and we want to figure out how to have a Daily Memphian in name the city. And inevitably, and there's nothing wrong with this, but inevitably it's a couple of journalists, and they really don't, if they're old school enough, they don't have any exposure to the business side of things. They really don't understand. And it's a kind of huge problem in local news that more and more of these kind of conferences and so on are talking about is you have a bunch of incredibly talented, well-meaning journalists running news startups all over the country, little ones generally. These are little small ones with 1, 2, or 3 people, and they don't have a business plan. They don't know how to, and we, the three of us, constantly have conversations, not just about, I mean, it's first and foremost the quality of the journalism, but both of you are really excellent at, well, how are we going to get more people to read it? How are we going to promote this story? Which would be a word back at the CA, and I'm not picking on the CA, back at local newspapers back in the day, that was not really to be, you couldn't say the word promote.
Right.
You couldn't say the word, but you could, what's silly is you could say what's going to be on the Sunday edition above the fold, which is a marketing and audience decision, but it was somehow couched as something else.
Well, we see, what's happened to a lot of newspapers now. So there's so many different ways to communicate that you kind of have to work together. It would be weird to be on different floors or different rooms and just be trying to kind of blindly do one part of the puzzle or the other without having at least some parts of the team that are all working together, if that made any sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let me say, just so none of this gets taken out of context, we do believe in journalistic integrity and the independence of the journalists and so on. I don't want to say otherwise just because I don't want to leave anybody with that impression. We were going to make fun of Jane because Jane somehow screwed up her calendar and couldn't be here, but we ran out of time on that. So we won't. I'll make her do like a solo show where we just talk really cheaply about everything she does. That'll be her punishment for not being
excited.
Here. And we can't talk about Doug McGowan. Although Doug McGowan owes me money because I bought he and his wife beer one time at a Redbirds game. It was one of the greatest. He was in line behind me and introduced, it was a soccer game, I think, actually, at Redbirds Stadium. And talking, I met his wife. I'd never met him before. Very nice. And Doug McGowan's a very nice guy. And we're talking. And we get all the way to the front of this long line, and it's a cash-only line or a card-only line, one or the other. And Doug didn't have what he needed. And he was like, oh, and I go, Doug, trust me. I so want to buy you and your wife a beer right now and hold this against you for the rest of your natural life, which I will do. Last question. I know I've asked you this before and I've forgotten already. What was your first concert?
Oh, no. It was like a Christian rock concert.
Oh, that's right. Was it Amy Grant?
Yes. No, it wasn't. It was Third Day, which is, what is a... Oh, yeah, Amy Grant wasn't Christian enough. That's actually my sort of
I
past.
am learning something now.
I know, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I blocked that out. Mary, first concert?
My first concert was in Cleveland, Ohio, and I don't have any idea who actually performed, but it was like one of those like radio station Lollapalooza type things. Like it was like a festival for the whole day. I don't know why my mom let me go. That was a bad idea.
Were you living in Cleveland at the time, apparently?
I was living about an hour outside of Cleveland.
Yeah.
So my mom just let me and some friends head to Cleveland. I feel like I was like 14. I don't even know how I got there.
Yeah. It was a different time preparing. And the first concert you chose, you like paid money and you remember who you went and saw?
No.
That's the first one. But what's the first one that you like, you went and saw Prince? A core memory that like I paid money to go see ads?
That is also a good question. I mean, I've blocked out a lot of my earlier life. I did go. I remember this. There was a band we liked. They were called the Clarks. This was, again, in Cleveland, Ohio, I don't know. And so we would like sneak into these like bars and like go see them. So
your daughters aren't listening to this, are they?
They're too young for podcasts.
Podcasts will be all over by the time they're teenagers. What was the first one I can't remember that now. That you enjoyed?
Suddenly, I can't remember anything.
You didn't enjoy the Amy Grant one?
I enjoyed it. Was like the Christian version of like, I don't even know, like whatever the like Southern rock, like those guys, like it was that. I would not choose that now.
2 out of 3 podcasts where someone sang. Kanji sang. Now you sort of sang.
I don't know if I would call that singing.
That was like singing in that Nickelback kind of way.
That's what I was trying to. That's the word that I wish I would have said instead of making that noise, but it's too late now.
All right, well,
just edit that out.
We're way out of time. No, we have to leave that in. That's an order. Anyway, thank you, Mary. Thank you, Holly. If you missed any of the show, you can get it at WYXR or go to Daily Memphian or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.